Morning, top of the morning.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so today, the number one metric that most agents don't track that you have to focus on because it's going to control how many closings you got.
Yes. There's so many things to track, man. So many things. Like, you can go crazy tracking stuff in the real estate business. And I think that it's like paralysis by analysis, right? Like, that's why people don't even start. They just don't even start tracking anything. If they track anything at all, it's usually just like the number of leads. And maybe if they get a little more sophisticated, it'd be like cost per lead. But this particular metric, it's something that we focus on for our customers. We encourage them to track. And it's a success metric that it will help you understand where the bottleneck is in your business if you are actually paying attention to this metric. And so, let's just dive into the thing. Go ahead.
So when we were talking about this, or when I was this morning thinking, I feel like the number one thing that people focus on is closings, right? That's so in such a delayed business,
right,
that you can't focus. It's such a lagging indicator to
that's the problem.
Like a lot of times in most sales organizations where it's like you can have something where it's like you talk to somebody and they can purchase that day, right? Like it's a little bit easier to do. But when it's real estate, and I mean, it can take 30, 45 days, best case scenario. You cannot be focused on the lagging indicator. So the leading indicator that will lead to more closings, which is the one that you want to focus on the most because that's where it actually gets the dollars into your pocket. So it's easy to go there. We were kind of having a conversation of there are so many numbers that you can focus on and so many things that you can focus on, but I think that you kind of nailed the general. If you do this and you have a lot of these, you'll end up having a lot of closings.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the number of face-to-face meetings that you have as a direct result from your lead generation or even prospecting efforts. If you're on a mega team or you run a mega team, you're probably keeping track of this in a different way. If you're setting listing appointments, for example, for agents on your team, you're keeping track of, how many appointments they actually meet with that customer and what their conversion rate is as far as getting the listing, because it's a lot of money to generate those type of appointments for your, listing agents. But, you don't think of it as a face-to-face metric necessarily. And for me, what happens is when you start to spend money like this and you start to spend more money and more money and more money, you want to make sure you're holding every piece of that pig, so to speak, accountable, right? Like every single person accountable. And so what I would do, I didn't track face-to-face appointments. I tracked the number of face-to-face appointments on the buy side through how many people they met with and how many they signed up to buyer's agency, right? And so that conversion rate is what we tried to keep track of as far as that's concerned. So, there was a metric for it, but I think just in the simplest terms, in the simplest sense, if you have leads coming in, right, and you're prospecting, you're calling those leads, let's say you're setting yourself appointments, those people that you're setting those appointments for, or if you have an ISA or if you have Market Maker, we're doing that for you, those people that those appointments are set for, that face-to-face side is the most important, because 3/4 of all buyers do business with the first agent they meet, and arguably sellers on the same side as well, right? Is that you? They're coming for you?
They found out I was back.
Mm-hmm. It's the green police. They said, oh man, it's not enough green. We're coming. I broke this sweater out today. My wife was like, you never wore that before. I was like, I know. I just bought it for...
I have the smallest amount of green possible.
Oh, I thought your shirt looks green. But think about that for a second. So if that's the metric, right? Like 3/4 of them are going to do business with the first agent they meet. Wouldn't it be your goal to meet with them first, even if it's just for a cup of coffee, even if it's for, what I mean? Like,
yeah. And this is where I get all up in arms about some people, because and I get it, right? Like I get the whole, I won't show houses to anybody unless they can show me a pre-approval. But I literally listened to a person's call that was like, our voicemail, like his voicemail was like, don't leave a voicemail for me if you're not already pre-approved. Like Keith goes, dude, you got to call this guy. And he didn't tell me.
He's got to fix that. Somebody should help that guy because
that was our voicemail was like, hey, dude, you might want to change that because and like, if you got so much money that you literally you can afford to just like work with a few people a year, like, and that's the only way you want to operate, like, good on you. But that's not 99.9999999% of the people that are in this business. But like sales prevention strategy, like
that's all that is.
It is. You got the department set up and it is operating at full capacity. So you don't want to make it more difficult. And you know, you said something one time where it was like, you know, like I would go out and meet them. Like I realized that my lawyer that charges $300 an hour would meet with people for a half hour to just do a free consultation. So like if they're willing to do it, I should be willing to do that as well.
Well, you know, not my lawyer, any lawyer, the most expensive lawyer in your city. If you have a case and you call them, they're going to give you a free consultation. They might spend 30 minutes with you. They might spend an hour. They might charge $1,000 an hour, but they're not going to charge you for that consultation because they're sizing up the situation, determining whether or not it's a winner or a loser of a case, which is what we instinctively do in real estate, right? We instinctively size up a customer to determine whether or not we're going to work with them. But guess what? They do the same thing with you, right? And they're not gonna want to work with you if the first thing you do is give them some self-serving, you know, voicemail of, oh, don't even leave a message if you're not pre-approved. Like I had this old timer in my office that I inherited. He came with the building, and he would say to me, you know, Mike, I ask him before we go out. Now, if we find the house that is right for you, are you prepared to write an offer today? And if they don't say yes, then I don't take them and show them those houses. You know how much real estate that guy sold? Nothing, nada. It was like a big joke in the office, and I guarantee you that's why, because that's the attitude. You know, if you were too busy for your customers, if you're too busy to be nice, if you're too busy to smile for some money, like you need to be in another business, right? Mm-hmm. Period. And meeting with somebody, right? That's.
What else are you going to do, right?
If you don't have something else that's dollar productive, that's like the highest and best dollar productive activity you can do for the day. Every day. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter. You know, I always say to people, like, if you meet somebody at a cocktail party and they tell you, hey, I'm thinking about buying some real estate, you'd probably follow up with them, right? You know, if you talk to somebody on the phone and they're like, yeah, I need to buy a house, like it's probably worth spending 20, 30 minutes to meet with them, especially considering that if you just meet with them, if you're the first agent, you pretty much like almost won, right? Like you just got to not mess it up from that point and be personable, be nice and care about what it is they're trying to accomplish. So that's the vast majority of the game. And I think that keeping track of that is something that it's a little difficult to do, you know? And I think a lot of times agents don't necessarily want to keep track of it because they don't want to look at it, but it's a huge metric. It's the metric on our platform, right? We generate the leads. We set the first appointment with you so that you can talk to them and understand what it is they're after. And then after that, it's up to you to set up a face-to-face. And if you do that, right, and you actually meet with them, you will win. We had that interview with Jared Bizu, and he was like, man, it's really natural for me because we're used to dealing with referrals. And he's like, in referrals, that's what you do. You meet with the person because somebody sent them to you, and the person that sent them to you is your friend. And so, like, you know, it's a very, very relational type of a lead, right? And that's how these all need to be looked at, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, we're going to add that to our dashboard. We're going to add that face-to-face metric shortly because it's just, for me to run a team today, if I have all these other metrics, but I don't have that one, right? Then there's a problem because that's the only spot where if you have enough face-to-face appointments, but you're not getting the customer and you're not closing the deal, now there's where the bottleneck is revealed, right? You need some sales training, right? You need to go out and find some resources to help you get better at sales so that you can, you know, convert these people and being good at sales. I mean, you can do two things. You can read How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Mm-hmm. Easy enough book to read, you know, just reading it half a dozen times. And other than that, like just stand to the side of the rooms when you're showing the houses because the room looks a little smaller without you being in the middle of it, you know, and ask them after every single showing, what would you like to do? What would you like to do? Now, I understand today it's crazy out there. You know, I mean, right now there's multiple offers. It's a different game. You know, I mean, it's just inventory is a problem. I don't think that's going to let up for a minute. Right. So, you know, forget about the buy side of this. Let's talk about the sell side of this. If you got somebody that you know is looking to sell in the next 6 months, probably worth your time to go meet them right now, offer them some help, offer them some resources, offer to keep them in touch with what's happening in the market, right? Sending them out. What do we call that, Jake? I'm drawing a blank. The market
update.
Thank you. So that tells them what homes are for sale, what homes have sold, like offering value, leading with value, and creating that relationship. But I'll tell you what, I would be meeting with every dang seller I could right now, because I don't think the inventory problem is going to be answered in the next half a decade. I was reading something the other day that said, we can't build houses to keep up with the demand. Even if we built a massive amount of houses, I forget what it was staggering. Like every day for the next 5 years, the guy said. I was like, man, that really makes me want to go out and buy some more real estate, especially single family rentals, because prices are going to continue to go up. This craze of multiple offers isn't going away unless the demand goes down, because the inventory is not there, right? The supply is less. And, what do? Well, you start to be nice to your 6 month out self, right? Be nice to your future self and do some things that are going to actually help. And that's the problem with those lagging indicators, right? Like you got a closing now. That's because something you did 30, 60, 90 days ago, right? Whatever you're doing now is going to determine your paycheck most likely 90 days from now, right? Because real estate kind of moves like that, quarterly, semi-annually even. And I always loved being so far ahead that at the beginning of the year, like that first quarter when most agents are like, coming out of their slumber, already having everything in place, hitting the ground running and closing enough deals to where you got such a head start, like good luck, because everybody else is just now like, lacing up their shoes. You're already down the track. And, it's just that mindset. And this particular thing to track is a huge part of that, right? Like how many people have you met with? It's a belly to belly business. It's a relational business.
I can almost guarantee you that if you don't have your own sales prevention strategy when you actually meet with them, that if you set a goal of 10, 15, 20 a month and you hit that, and that was the only thing you focused on, your goal would get crushed. You would murder your goal. And you don't realize all the ways when you have like focus goes, energy flows, all that good stuff. But when you're belly to belly meeting with people face to face, like it's just where good thing, like that's where things happen, right? That's where you talk to somebody and you find out their situation, but you get a referral for them because you were nice to them. Like it just creates action in your business that is not anywhere duplicatable anywhere else. You can't get on Facebook Messenger. You can't get on anything else. Nothing will ever replace the eye-to-eye, face-to-face meal, whatever it is that you have when you meet with somebody that creates trust and a bond. And if it's not right now, it'll be down the road. If it's not with them, it'll be with somebody that they know or they're related to or whatever it may be. But that's just how you get better at it too. That's how your stuff will increase. So if the result isn't there, and again, it's not there immediately, it's always down the road where we're in a microwave society anyway. So it's like, well, I did this for 2 months and I didn't get any closings. Well, that's not how this business works.
Yeah. I wish they taught delayed gratification in high school. You know what I mean? Like that is probably like one of the single biggest components of massively successful people versus mediocrely successful. That and the ability to continue to study and improve. But I mean, even studying and improving is a delayed gratification strategy, isn't it? I mean, it's a huge thing. They've done those studies where if you eat the marshmallow now, or if you save it, you can have 2 later, right? Like with the kids, you watch that, It's hilarious. I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have ate the marshmallow right away. But I'll tell you, I've trained myself to have more delayed gratification these days than not, and have for a long time. And when I'm not doing that, it feels weird, But the problem with that is I never celebrate wins, and I just keep going. And then it's like, oh, there's never an end, and there's never a celebration. I'm actually afraid of the end, and I'm actually afraid of a celebration because it's like, well, then what,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
it's over.
But I mean, I would just encourage, agents out there to track that metric, track who you're meeting with, track how many face-to-face meetings you've had every month with, people who have indicated that they're looking to buy or sell. I'm not talking about calling somebody up for a cup of coffee because, you know them or you had a past client, or doing something that's necessarily self-serving, right? Like I have different salespeople in different industries like make excuses to meet with me, and you know I might have some business with them. Well, I'll give you an example. Insurance is one. I always appreciate when the insurance guy doesn't make me meet with them. You know, and be like, "Hey, I need to meet you over here to go over this." No, you don't. You can do it without me. You just are trying to maintain that relationship, which I appreciate, but I don't have time. And I'm not going anywhere necessarily because I'm lazy about insurance, and so it's not necessary. But so I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I would make sure that if you're generating leads, which you should be, that are raising their hand in your market and saying, "Hey, I'm over here and I'm looking to consider buying or selling," that you have a concerted effort and a metric in place for how many of those people come into your database and how many of those turn into face-to-face meetings on a weekly, monthly basis, right? Not necessarily annual or over blocks of time, but weekly, big chunks of time rather. Weekly. How many of those people did you meet with this week? How many people did you meet with last month? That's going to really have a huge impact and indication on whether or not you're going to be able to get those folks as customers, or they're going to forget about you and go to somebody else. Because I think a lot of agents, I know just salespeople in general rely on, well, I sent them an email. Well, I sent them a text message. Well, they're on my market update, or they're on my, listing cart, right? Like they're getting correspondence from me. That is not going to cut it. They're not monogamous to you or to shopping on your website or to shopping on Zillow or to shopping on Realtor. That's the beauty and the opportunity of the industry still, like
Yep.
they're going to still be self-serving. There isn't a one-stop like, oh, I'm on this thing, so I don't need anything else. They're very curious. They want to make sure, they're going to keep looking.
Missing out.
Yeah, they don't want to miss out. They don't want to miss out. That's it. And it's a huge, huge transaction, as everybody knows, for the individuals. So they're going to probably put a little more research and diligence into it than, say, buying a vehicle or, any other type of an item. And so, they're going to be out there looking. But once they have that rapport, once they have that relationship with you, they're going to do business with you 3/4 of the time. So go meet people.
Go meet people, and don't just track it. Like, set a goal and hit it, and don't lie to yourself. Don't cheat yourself, because it's only cheating yourself when you meet with your buddy for a cup of coffee and call it a face-to-face. You know that they're just meeting you because you're their friend, and
Right.
not because they're actually interested in talking about real estate right now.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that, because like it just made me think, like when I worked for Northwestern Mutual right out of college. Our big thing was face-to-face fact finders is what we called them. But it was like we had this little brochure that was like, we got all their financial information, got their goals, all that fun stuff. And then we took that back, did research on what their goals were, and then came back with a plan, and then ultimately tried to sell them the plan. Right.
Okay.
And but our number one metric was how many fact finders did you have a week? Like, you had a goal. Do you want to do 5? Do you want to do 10? But that would lead to how much money you were making.
Okay.
So it was all face to face, how many fact finders you could set up. And I remember, like, starting off, it was like 5 a week was one a day was what you would shoot for. So you'd prospect like hell, blah, 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 blah. And you get to the point at the end of the week where you just call the people in your phone and be like, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And you wouldn't tell them why, right? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, let's meet for a coffee or a drink, whatever. And you'd be like, well, I need to fill this fact finder out. Can you just please give me this information so you don't got to buy anything? But it was just going through the motions. It was literally just to make myself feel better about checking a box.
Yeah.
So I could say I met with 5 people this week, but it wasn't really, right? But I will 1,000% tell you that in my experience, I would 1,000% rather be calling a list of leads, fresh leads that came in that I had no idea who they were, rather than my friends and family, asking them awkwardly if they would like to meet to sit down to talk about their finances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you triggered 2 big things there. So the first one is, like, if I'm meeting with a prospect, right? Like, number one, they either got to be interested in buying a house, and the reason why we're going to meet is to maybe look at one. Or 2 and talk about their criteria, or they got to be interested in selling a house. And the reason why I'm meeting with them is to give them a home evaluation and maybe some tips on what to do to get the most amount of money out of it, and where they stand and what the market conditions are, right? Like, those are the only 2 reasons why I would meet with a prospect necessarily. What you just described happened to me. I had a guy call me I made friends with him at UPW, Tony Robbins, and I genuinely liked this dude, right? And we had a lot of conversations. My wife and I and him and I believe his wife at the time, kids same age, and we're in this learning environment, right? You've been to UPW, and so he calls me up. We kept in touch, a couple times. He calls me up like, I don't know, maybe 6 years later, wants to talk about my finances, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pretty private guy. But I was like, you know what? I could probably use like some type of little index fund or something, like I'd be interested in that. So he's rookie, he's starting out. So we're digging into this. He tries to sell me some life insurance, right? And he tries to sell me whole life insurance because it's like 50 G's or something, and it's all his commission. And I know this, and I'm like, look, man, I don't want that. I already have life insurance. He's like, well, I could probably get you a better policy if you would, jump through the hoops. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, we can get you double. He quoted it. We can get you double the coverage that you got right now for the same monthly price. Okay. So I jump through the hoops. I even take a, what do they call that? EKG, right? Like the whole heart reading. Like I got to jump through all these hoops. I got to starve myself. I got to meet with this lady. She got to give me this in-depth physical. Well, then he comes back and he's like, yeah, we can't do the other one, but we can do the whole term, and this is what it would cost. So he just totally bait and switch me. Guess what? I'm never going to buy anything from that dude ever again, and I don't even take his phone call when he calls me now because it's not necessarily his fault. It's his mentors. They trained him wrong, right? They trained him to try to do that, like, and bait and switch me and insult my intelligence. So, like, have a nice life, bud. But here's the deal. Don't do that. Don't go meet with people and be like, hey, let's have some coffee. Hey, do you know anybody you can buy or sell any real estate here in the near future? Generate some leads. It's the easiest thing ever. If you don't know how to do that, that's what we'll help you with. We'll even help you set the appointments. We just want you to make sure you're getting face-to-face with them. Go to marketmakercall.com. Check it out. See how we can help you. See if it's available for you in your market if your territory's not already taken.
And give you a script that you can say that if they say yes to that, then you are meeting with the right people. Yeah. Name of the game. So
yeah, determine if you want to do business with them. That's the magic.
So set a goal, track it, make it happen.
Yeah.
And as you always say in Market Maker, you are always one pre-position appointment away, baby.
Every day.